Today on Locked On Rockies, the Rockies continue to play the worst baseball in the entire league. What's to blame? Who's to blame? And how soon should Colorado turn to the future? In reality, sooner rather than later.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 18th day of April in the year 2023. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, well, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here, is talk about the Colorado Rockies each and every single day. Yes, in fact, that is right. The passionate Rockies fans do have a podcast for them right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, because that's what I am. I am a passionate Rockies fan. I am your Rockies fan extraordinaire, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk. Been a big fan of the team my whole life. 3 seasons covering the team here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's episode is brought to you by HelloFresh. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Go to HelloFresh.com/MLB60 and use code MLB60 for 60% off plus free shipping. All right. A. Jenkins here in the chat, a new subscriber to the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where we thank you all for turning into the Locked On Rockies podcast, where we mostly stream all of our episodes live, but sometimes we pre-record. But the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, place to be. I'm just kind of stalling in this intro. You guys are probably sitting there like, man, this is kind of starting to drag. And it's honestly because I am not excited to talk about this team because of how incredibly disappointed I am. And A. Jenkins here in the live chat, Rockies fan for the past 3 years. Tough 3 years to be a fan, but we appreciate you and welcome in. We are all... Why it's hard to talk about the Rockies is because of how much I care about this Rockies team all the time. It was on display this weekend. It's been on display a lot in my life. We are just sat there. There's just the moments, again, where I'm sitting there on the couch and I'm watching the team, and I just ask myself, why? And I hate asking myself that question, because I used to have to ask that question a lot. Then I stopped asking that question because I had a great answer to it. And now I ask it again, because the Rockies are playing the worst baseball in the entire league. And I think it's by far. I think you look at some of, the obvious answer will be like, well, the A's. The A's are obviously a mess and have played bad baseball, but they're not a team of veterans. They're not a team who kids themselves and their priorities and their expectations. And they're not a team that historically doesn't play this bad of defense. This Rockies team isn't playing fundamental baseball. And at this point, if this continues through the month of April, it is time to punt. It is time to move on from everybody. It is time to play every young player possible. There is no reason to stick to this script for 162 games, because it ain't working. You can blame the injuries, you can blame whatever you want, but right now, we know this team ain't it, and this team ain't working. We are seeing the failures and the flaws of the Colorado Rockies on full display, and old wounds are being reopened and rehashed, And we are continuing to see a lack of accountability and leadership within the dugout and in the front office. I have not often called for this. I have not said much about this, and I haven't been very vocal about it. But it is time for Bud Black's job to be in jeopardy. It is time for the entire Rockies coaching staff to be worried about their job. I'm not trying to say that as a bad thing, but the performance has only gotten worse. The Rockies have not improved, and that also includes under Bud Black's tenure. Bud Black has not lived up to the early expectations of that he set, and he certainly has not lived up to being a pitcher's manager, because the Colorado Rockies cannot pitch. It does not matter. Even Kyle Freeland is susceptible to it. We saw it last night. It does not matter. There is nothing that the Colorado Rockies are doing that is deserving of an extension for Bud Black. There is nothing that the Colorado Rockies are doing to give Steve Foster and Darryl Scott more time to work on this pitching staff. There is nothing. Yes, it's only April 18th. But we know this team already because it's the same Colorado Rockies story that we've followed since the playoff runs. It's the same things. It's the same issues. It's the same mistakes. It's the same lack of an action. The Colorado Rockies have not improved since their peak, since losing out on the division to one game to the Dodgers. The Colorado Rockies have not improved. Since that point, since getting swept by the Brewers in the playoffs, the Colorado Rockies have gotten worse. Every year, they have gotten worse. Things have trended down every year. And to the point where now, to set the stage for 2023, the Rockies are playing as the worst team in baseball. That is worse than the Tigers. That is worse than the Nationals. That is worse than the A's. That is the worst team in baseball. And yet the Rockies have no plans to pivot from this identity, from this roster, because guess what? There is no reason for us to believe that this team is actually going to punt on 2023. There is no reason for us to believe that the Rockies will actually just turn to their young players and go to them, because the Colorado Rockies will not embrace the fact that they suck. They suck. They won't embrace that. Other teams have done so and have been able to build for the future. The Rockies have interesting prospects, but they don't have depth. They don't have sustainable farm systems, and they don't have major league talent. Because, yeah, Ryan, you're right. Why change when it all comes down to guys just playing better? It's hooey, it's hogwash, and it's enough. That was an empty and sad ballpark last night. The Colorado Rockies are down 55,000 in attendance to start this year. It's very early. But if Dick Monfort is not opening his eyes, if Dick Monfort is not realizing that under his leadership and ownership that this team is underperforming in so many ways, then the Rockies will not get better, because they will promote from within and they won't do the things that they need to do to change things. The only thing that might change things is the Rockies actually losing 100 games. And they are on the way to doing so. And it's disappointing, because you know what would have been cool? You know what would have been cool? To really build off of and set, instead of a foundation of of this being like we have to do, we could have set a floor of Rockies. Those are a perennial wild card team. Instead, we have to always take solace in the fact of, hey, the Rockies were bad, but they didn't lose 100 games. Maybe this year that needs to change, because maybe that actually will change some minds in the front office, because the way the Rockies are playing right now is unacceptable. And it goes contrary to every single thing that we are told by the front office down. Oh, just play better. Oh, we have the right guys in the right place. We believe in this team. I don't believe you. Whew, boy. That's not even any game analysis in there. It's just straight ire. Because, I mean, what is there to what do we need to break down about the game yesterday that we don't already know? Well, we will break down the game. We'll look ahead and we'll see if the Rockies can break the losing streak and get back in there and address their willingness to be a team that actually tries to play the young guys and embrace 100 losses coming up in segment number 2. But before we do that, got to tell you about our friends at So Rare. So Rare is our new sponsor, and they are a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace that transforms fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 Major League Baseball teams. Unlike other fantasy platforms, So Rare managers truly own their fantasy experience, collecting, buying, selling, and competing with player cards against global opponents to win epic rewards. Win or lose, you still own your cards, and you can get started with no cost. And they have great prizes, and they have also partnered with some of the best and bright stars in Major League Baseball, like Juan Soto and Julio Rodriguez, to be their little brand ambassadors, so they can vouch for how cool So Rare is. And all you got to do to get in on the revolutionary fantasy baseball game at So Rare is to head to sorare.com/lockedon. That's spelled SORARE.com to draft your team of free player cards. Set your lineup and start competing today to win epic rewards. Yes, you are going to compete. There are leaderboards and prizes like cards, game tickets, merchandise, signed jerseys, and more. Head to sorare.com/lockedon to start playing today. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. We thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We stream live on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can find the Locked On Rockies live chat, where we got all sorts of Rockies fans chiming in on the current state of the Colorado Rockies. Ryan Tartleski says, are any media members going to start holding Bud Black accountable? Dude's lost nearly 60% of his games the last 4 seasons and only getting worse. Walked into a great roster, now flailing and losing. Joel DeGrace says, I've been a Rocks fan since 2008, and man, I've been frustrated with them before, but this season is just something else. The A's never said a bunch of junk about winning 500. Can we steal Walt back from the Braves? Isn't that amazing? Walt Weiss, I don't think Walt Weiss ever, he took advantage of the great opportunity, and good for him. I don't necessarily I don't know if he'd be another great full manager, but a high school coach, he gets his chance with the Rockies, then he goes and contributes. It's crazy when you actually can put the right people in the right situations instead of just loyalty, the people that reward things that what you perceive as loyalty to your organization. A. Jenkins says, I don't know why we re-signed Bud Black. Let's see here. Rat King says maybe 100+ loss season is exactly what we need to make the front office open their eyes a little bit and actually make trades for prospects in the future. It is that's exactly, I think that might be the case. And I mean, it's hard because everything that I thought I was excited about the Rockies and the moves, and I don't think maybe I overreacted and overhyped, but I don't think I oversold the Rockies and their potential, especially, I don't know how much you can really oversell a mid-70s win team, like I said. I guess me telling you to hammer the overs that they had at, the mid-60 win totals that people had. But it's amazing and kind of eye-opening to me of how wrong I've been about the Rockies to start this year. This team isn't playing good defense. This team isn't playing fundamental baseball. The offense maybe seems to be scoring a little bit more, but certainly not coming up more clutch in situations, and certainly not making the Coors Field the place that people come to fear. Right now, people love coming to Coors Field because they can just beat up on this Rockies pitching and get their offense sparked and get something going. 100 losses if it happens, it should be the moment. I mean, that if Dick Monfort and company, they've being able to skate without saying that they've never lost 100 games. They can say they've been competitive, so they can say that they have, that they were just in it if things bounce the right way. But 100 losses, you can't spin that. There's no spin to the Rockies other than injuries. But in reality, we know that the Rockies, even at full health, wouldn't be much better. I mean, the starting pitching depth would be the only exception to that, because Brendan Rodgers is the big part, yeah, and it would be huge. But we're not getting. I mean, we're getting errors from a guy that's supposed to be playing Gold Glove second base, who's fully capable of doing so, and just Brendan Rodgers inserted into the lineup doesn't make the Rockies offense all that much more of a threat. So I don't think you can just sit there and say injuries. I mean, this is a team that tried to go and is going to try to bring back all these vets and try to do all these things. But in reality, the Rockies should just play their young guys. There's no point unless you can. I mean, I guess there has to be at least the window to get back into competing this year in the Rockies' mind can't be closed yet, because it's way too early, I guess, to officially close that window. Sure. But the Rockies never embrace that. They always see the window is always cracked, but that's not the case. So when will the Rockies decide that getting trounced by the Pirates at home is enough to make change? And I don't know. I don't necessarily think we can sit here and just say the health is the biggest issue. And Lux Ace, who hopes the Rockies win tonight, I feel you. I don't necessarily think a healthy team. We have healthy CJ Cron, and we're seeing this is what CJ Cron is right now. We saw it after the All-Star break, and we saw the possibilities. It is. I mean, we know who CJ Cron is. We know Herman. We know Kyle Freeland. I mean, Kyle Freeland's healthy. Chris Bryant's healthy. And I mean, the home run, sure, but I really don't think that necessarily this team is all that better. I mean, it just needs to. And the health of those players, and those players being on the team and continuing to start doesn't make me more confident in the Rockies being better. I still, even with everyone healthy in the lineup now, I guess, yes, I'd feel a little bit more confident about the Rockies being mediocre. But now with the injuries the Rockies have sustained, and if this doesn't change, because again, I guess we need to leave the door open for possible change. I mean, there's a lot of baseball left to be played. The Phillies were terrible and made it all the way to the World Series last year. They showed the sign of it. Will they do it again? Will they embrace losing the 100 games? I just don't think this team ever will. I don't think I just have no confidence in this team. Because they did it already. They did it this weekend. They did what they always do. They called up a prospect and he didn't play. They called up Nolan Jones for no reason. You don't do that. Well, the Rockies do that. But that doesn't do anything. I mean, something has to change. At some point, you have to embrace changing, because again, it isn't just this year. It isn't just late last year. The issues and the frustrations and the missteps and the miscalculations by the Rockies have only increased and gotten more frequent since the sweep in the division series in the playoffs. Whew. Now, it is not lost. The Rockies still have an opportunity. But they're going to have to back up. They're going to have to bail out their other pitchers, and they're going to have to turn things around, because if they do have a struggling Phillies team that they're going to play against, that maybe they can also be the ones that beat the bad team or beat the struggling team. But it all starts tonight, and the Rockies do have an opportunity to get in the win column tonight. I do believe it is possible for the Rockies to break the streak tonight. Here, let's take a look at tonight's game coming up against the Pirates. Here is the Rockies 5-12, 6 straight losses. Ugh. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. We also got the live chat popping up here. All sorts of great Rockies fans here in the live chat. Be one of them. Subscribe to the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel and be part of the show. Know when we go live. A. Jenkins says, do y'all think Noah Davis continues to be a starter or just a fill-in? It's going to have to be, it'll be repetitions with Peter Lambert coming up today as well. That'll be an interesting option. Davis certainly will get, 2 starts probably at least, with Herman being on the 15-day IL. So he'll get 2 more starts in addition to the 1, I think, because 15, odds are that's 3 starts there. And then most likely a rehab start, you would most imagine. So there's a good chance we see Noah Davis for 3 more starts. Could he earn himself a spot in the rotation? Certainly. But that's going to be getting closer and closer to Antonio Senzatella coming back. But the Rockies could decide to go with Noah Davis if he pitches well over Gomber or Urena, who both have not shown themselves to be for sure pieces of this rotation. We also have seen Ryan Feltner, who hasn't necessarily been great either. But again, with Peter Lambert coming up, that complicates things a little bit more for that. But Lambert could be seen as more of a bullpen option and long relief option, especially considering his injury history. So it is certainly possible that we see Davis stick around, but it's going to all depend on how the next few starts look and what he decides. I mean, the Rockies could shift him into the bullpen. It really, the Lambert one is the interesting call up today. For those that didn't know, Connor Siebold was optioned to AAA today to make the move for Lambert, who just came back. And so certainly possible. It's going to depend on performance. I can certainly say the Rockies, I would assume, I guess the Rockies have their hopes on Gomber and Urena being parts of the rotation, at least one of them with Senzatella coming back. And then I would imagine the Rockies wanting to be confident in Feltner or one of their young guys to turn to there in the back of the rotation. But everything, I think, is up in the air for the Colorado Rockies rotation, to be totally honest. I don't necessarily think that there is anything that the Rockies should be holding on to, honestly, or not open-minded to when it comes to the how they handle the rotation and pitching for the rest of the season. Okay, the Rockies have not won a ball game since taking down the Cardinals there 6 games ago. And in the past 3 games, the Rockies have scored 5 runs. That certainly needs to change tonight against a pitcher who also hasn't been necessarily that great this season in Vince Velasquez for the Pirates. 5.40 ERA, a 1.58 whip. In 13.1 innings, he's allowed 14 hits, 10 strikeouts, 7 walks, and 2 home runs. You'd feel more confident in the Rockies doing that if they weren't sending up Jose Urena, who's currently sitting in a 9.90 ERA, a 2.50 whip, and over 10 innings, 17 hits, given up 7 strikeouts, 8 walks, and 5 home runs. So for those counting at home, Vince Velasquez has had a tough start to the year, but Jose Urena has given up 3 more home runs, 1 more walk, struck out 3 less batters, allowed 3 more hits in 3 less innings worth of work. That is your starting pitcher for the Rockies, and that highlights part of the issue with the Rockies. Jose Urena is a much better baseball pitcher than I am, but when it comes to Major League, the standards, and I think the standards for the Rockies, he needs to mimic what he did last time, which was a pretty darn good. Wasn't technically by definition a quality start, but his best start of the year. He cannot allow this Pirates team that jumped all over Kyle Freeland to do the same to him, and he certainly can't allow extra free bases there. So, and Luxace Urena also pitches at Coors. To be totally honest, I do not care. I don't. I mean, if you believe this much in these guys, if you're going to be a third arm in the rotation of the Rockies, you have to be successful there, and you can't say your home ballpark is a flaw when there's pitchers that have been successful there. I don't want a Rockies pitcher scared to pitch at Coors Field, and one that isn't willing and ready to step up to the challenge. So, and Urena again is someone who should be. Urena should be someone who really wants to improve and have the fire under him to set the record straight about his season, and hopefully he does that, because that's where it starts. And then the Rockies gotta back him up there for the Rocks, and actually, and I'm curious there, just as you said that there. Lux, just to look at it there, he has had more starts on the road, but he's still given up 2 home runs. Two home runs. No, wait, sorry. Let me see. That's home. Is he only pitched at home? No. Yeah, on the road there. He did allow the home run, the 4 walks, the most walks in the season, and didn't strike out anybody, while also allowing the 4 earned runs. So, yeah, the home run's certainly a factor, but lack of strikeout production and the walks. But again, massive improvement for Urena in his last start there. The loss against the Cardinals, 5 hits, 3 earned, 2 home runs, 1 walk, and 6 strikeouts. If Urena can avoid the long ball, then the Rockies should be in a good spot, because that's what burned him. That's what's really burned him, and that's what burned him the last time. I mean, he has given up now multiple home runs in back-to-back games. So what's a great way to snap the skid and to get Jose back on the right track there for the Rockies is a homerless ball game for Urena. So there's the big take for tonight's game. If Jose Urena doesn't give up a home run, the Rockies should be in a position to win this game tonight, as long as he also prevents the walks. The offense has to show up as well. Have to drive runners in scoring position and stop striking out so much as well. Folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Hey, coming up on Locked On Rockies here, we'll probably do a pod right before or during the game tomorrow, or some point, probably during the game tomorrow, I would imagine, since it's one of those day games. But then we will also do a recap series coming up with Locked On Pirates as well. We will do a crossover series recap there with Locked On Pirates, looking back at this one, looking ahead for these two teams, and doing what I like to do, whereas looking at where these teams are at, can the Rockies get to do what these teams have done to get back to success, and what that means. I want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. I want to shout out my everyday listeners out there, like all of you in the live chat today. A poppin' live chat today. I saw Leandro came in here late. We got our new subscriber there, A. Jenkins, Lux Ace, Ryan Tartlesky, Joel DeGrace, Rat King was here as well. Soy Boy was in here. We had a whole poppin' live chat, and I saw double digits in the live viewers today. So come join in the fun. Come hang out with us on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Go make Locked On Avalanche, Buffs, Nuggets, Broncos your second listen of the day. Lots of action in Colorado sports. Don't miss out on it. And folks, until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.